A few weeks ago, in her weekly Shabbat message, Rav Claudia told the story of a group of travelers who sailed to sea in a wooden boat. One of the travelers took out a drill and began to drill a hole beneath his seat. The other travelers naturally were alarmed and protested that the hole he was drilling would destroy them all. "Why are you worried?" he answered them. "It's only beneath my seat." The COVID pandemic reminds us of an inescapable truth. We're all in the same boat together. Our physical existence, our bodies, these finite containers for our infinite souls, draw inspiration, quite literally, in-breath, neshama, from the exhalations, the out-breaths, the neshama of others. We meditate on the connection between nefesh, the soul, and neshama, the breath. During this pandemic, we practice pekuach nefesh, we save a soul, by practicing pekuach neshama, by guarding our breath. We wear face masks. We stand apart at healthy distances. Insofar as possible, we stay home. We've learned to use and have come to rely upon Zoom and Facebook Live and YouTube streaming and video recordings to keep physically distant but spiritually close. Physically distant but spiritually close. And now, after many challenging months and with challenges no doubt still ahead, we've arrived at these high holy days, at Yom Kippur, at the Mincha service. I say arrived, but in truth I'm standing in our beautiful but nearly empty sanctuary. The chairs are stacked against the side walls. The room is mostly devoid of people, and I'm surrounded, enveloped, washed by memories. I close my eyes, and in all this stillness, my mind is transported back to my first Yom Kippur at TBZ 20 years ago. It's 2000. I'm working to rebuild my Jewish identity after decades of alienation. The sanctuary is packed. Nearly everyone is dressed in white. Our hearts have just been cracked open during Yitzchar. As the sun begins to set and the intensity and urgency of our prayers begin to quicken, we start the Mincha service. We open the ark. We parade the Torah around the sanctuary. We bring the Torah here to the reading table. The first Aliyah, then the second, and then the Maftir reading, Vayekra, Leviticus, chapter 18, and this verse, V'et zachar lo tishkav mishkevei isha toevahi. You shall not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. It is an abomination. I close my eyes. The sanctuary floor feels as if it's dissolving beneath me, and my mind is transported again. It's 1970. I'm a preteen. It's Yom Kippur afternoon. I'm with family at our crowded, conservative suburban synagogue. I'm a kid. I fidget. But it's the Mincha service, and grown-ups are reading from the Torah. I squirm. V'et zachar lo tishkav mishkevei isha toevehi, an abomination. I sink into my chair, my eyes locked on the translation. I don't look up. I don't look around. I don't want anyone, not my parents, not my friends, not the rabbi, to suspect that. To suspect that what? To suspect that what? It's 1970, I'm a kid, and I don't even have the vocabulary, the mind map, the heart map to process the slow, creeping awareness of my being somehow different, that I'm gay, that my life, then just beginning, would be informed, would be instructed, would be burdened, that my life would be injured by this Parsha's description of the emerging me as an abomination. Suddenly, my mind snaps back to TBZ and to this sanctuary. Again, it's the year 2000. I'm 40 years old, a proud gay man, but I'm new to this shul. I'm enthralled by the temple's still new Jubu Rabbi Reb Moshe. I want to love this place. I want to be loved in this place. The Maftir reading has just concluded, "You shall not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. It is an abomination." And then silence. No reflection, no commentary, no contextualizing, no nothing. I look around this room. It's late on Yom Kippur afternoon, but the sanctuary is still crowded. There are families here. There are kids here, kids that I don't know, but more important, kids who don't yet know themselves. And they are listening. They are listening to what we read aloud from Torah and what we don't say in response. Friends, we come to shul, perhaps especially on Yom Kippur, with a hope, a prayer even, that we'll be inspired, we'll be moved, we'll be enlightened by a glimmer, just a glimpse of deeper understanding. We imagine that if revelation happens, it'll come during a quiet contemplation or when chanting an uplifting nigun, or maybe from that still small voice. And so I was stunned. I was stunned sitting here at TBZ 20 years ago, following my first encounter here with this problematic Torah portion, and even more with the total communal silence that followed its reading. To hear in my mind an unexpected song, a song not from the Yom Kippur liturgy, but from 1970, from the year my mind had been transported to a few moments earlier, a song by Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did slowly go by. And feed them on your dreams. The one they pick is the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh and know they love you. We don't get to pick Revelation soundtrack, my friends. Sometimes it just picks us. So, following that first year of Yom Kippur here at TBZ for me, I entered a period of understandable God wrestling and, candidly, a bit of rabbi wrestling too. We've come so far in 20 years, so far, but 20 years ago, the word gay had, to my knowledge, never been publicly uttered in this building. Abomination, yes. Gay, no. In 2000, I already wasn't young, but I was younger. I was 20 years younger. I still had hair. And for sure, I was more strident and more confrontational. And Reb Moshe, my beautiful teacher, my friend, also already wasn't young, but he too was younger. He still has his hair. And Reb Moshe was at an earlier moment in his evolution as a strong LGBTQ ally. Remember, he had just been installed as TBZ's rabbi only a few years earlier. And Temple Beth Zion's transformation from a conservative and frankly moribund synagogue to our vibrant, inclusive TBZ still was in its earliest phase. And so Reb Moshe and I wrestled respectfully. We wrestled and we studied and we talked and we talked and we talked and we talked about the inclusion of this problematic Torah portion on Yom Kippur. And after 2 years of talking, 18 years ago, this Yom Kippur, I was ready and Reb Moshe was ready, and we hoped TBZ would be ready for me to offer the Mincha service personal reflection that's now included in our Machzorim. I rose to speak these very carefully written, thoroughly negotiated, and in retrospect, quite cautious words. We won't welcome gay men and lesbians to our congregation, I said, if we run the moral red light that unavoidably is part of a progressive Jewish community's reading of today's Parsha. We must pause when we read this Parsha and speak of the Torah of our lives as necessary commentary to the written Torah we have inherited. For 18 years now, at every Mincha service, a TBZ member has risen to challenge today's Parsha with insight and eloquence and integrity and authenticity and more inclusiveness than I had the awareness to summon in 2002. In these annual personal reflections and throughout the years, we welcome too our bisexual, transgender, queer, and gender nonconforming friends and family members, humanity's full rainbow, to this amazing community. I can't mention every personal reflection, although each has been moving and important. I'm so grateful that Rafi Freeman Gerspan, a proud transgender rights activist, was nurtured by her TBZ parents and by this shul. I was moved to tears a few years ago when Molly Silver's son, Ezra, returned to TBZ from college and spoke about the importance of growing up as a queer kid in a supportive Jewish community. And last year, how amazing, how thrilling, how unimaginable it would have been 20 or 18 years ago to have Sam and Yarden offer their Mincha reflections together as husbands. So much change, so much progress, but Tikkun Olam is not like the weather. World repair doesn't happen around us, we make it happen. As Reb Moshe teaches, we are the fingers of a divine hand, and I know that TBZ's communal fingerprints are all over the progress we have made at our shul, across most of Judaism, and in many parts of our world. Over the years at TBZ, we've evolved a practice of standing during the Vayekra Maftir reading. Our Mincha service leaders sometimes characterize this practice as protest, an act of holy defiance. I get it. I get that. For me, I rise because I want everyone in the room to see who our written Torah is referring to. When we all rise, I see a community of beautiful people affirming that we're all in this boat together. And so during this challenging and unprecedented time wherever you are right now across the TBZ diaspora. As you watch the recording or live stream of today's problematic Torah portion, I invite you to rise as you are able. Today, we are physically distant but spiritually close. Please rise wherever you are in remembrance of a time just 20 years ago, only 20 years ago, when this sanctuary, this room was packed with congregants. We were so physically close, but through communal silence, many of us were left adrift, spiritually distant. Rise up, TBZ, in solidarity with our LGBTQ family. Rise up, B'al Kol Yisrael, because Black lives matter. And we know from 20 years' experience here, we know in our bones that change is possible if we act to change. Rise up, B'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, because we can vote. We can change our government. We can change the law. We can change hearts and minds. We can change our world. We know we can do it because we have done it before. And we must keep at it. So rise up, rise up. Gamar Chatima Tova, I wish all of us a sweet and powerful new year.